And last but not least, let's finally talk about Eternals, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
the
Sure.
newest MCU film. Is actually 26th film in the MCU thus far.
Right.
It's directed by Chloe Zhao and co-wrote. And I'll just bring this up here one time, right? So Chloe so dread that she have her name. You like I don't know if it's stuck around for the end credits, right? But you see her name show up twice when they show screenplay by, right?
Right.
You see Chloe Zhao and then Chloe Zhao and which is by Patrick Burley. It's either him or Ryan Furpo. One of those two names, right? I think
Right.
is the Patrick person, right? But yeah, so her name pop up twice in this thing. And like that can explain things actually. So it I don't want to say that it's some pretentious or anything like that, but it kind of explains why the show kind of played out the way it did, right? But yeah, basically this is Chloe Zhao, director of films like The Rider and Nomadland, two films that both of us we thoroughly love and we will recommend to anyone. Well, I would say not everyone, but just those who willing to appreciate slow burn character pieces, with
Right.
emphasis on nature, and the world around the character. That's what we'll say. Yeah, it's for them, right? But yeah, it's her sensibilities being put into this world of Marvel, right? So
Right.
how did it play out? Well, we'll get to that in a bit, right? But Ricardo, take it away. What was Eternals about?
All right. So a long, long time ago, um, the universe was manipulated and created by something called the Celestials. We've seen the Celestials being mentioned in the MCU before. They basically what they do is they build, they build up life and nature. And effectively, the Celestials can, well, from what I understand, they can effectively create stars. And what they do is they create stars. You send something in a planet, and then you make another celestial, and then you build a star, and so on and so forth, right? And that's what they do. They just the giant behemoths that control the universe. We don't know what they are in context to the other big powerhouses that have been introduced in the MCU in Phase 4, but they for now just seems to be the be all of everything in terms of the start of everything. And what they've done is effectively have these things called the Eternals, where it's these, well, semi kind of consciously robots type people, super angel type figures who come and manipulate societies and planets over long periods of time. And then the big reveal in the storyline about what that really is about. But that's pretty much it. Um, Ajak, played by um, Salma Hayek, she is in direct contact with the Celestial, who basically, tasked for dealing with Earth and talking to them, and then all the Celestials live out their life, basically raising humanity through legends and mythology and history, giving them, basically improving our lives over time. That's it. And then, well, the story comes back full circle involving Icarus and what he about and why. Yeah, that's it. So I really hate saying this. I really hate saying this because I hate contriving future arguments, but I can't help but think of it as a future argument. It's the Ang Lee Hulk situation, a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
it
A little bit,
is. It
where
is. Oh,
you
you see
have,
a little bit. Okay.
yeah, a little bit, like not it don't tied in the same way, but you have a director, right, a filmmaker who is in some ways kind of above the material, but they clearly having a lot of fun with it, and they decide to bring their more high-end sensibilities to the material. And if you're into that, it works. Because how this actually, I totally understand why this is divisive, right? Where it have some people who they expect certain things from the MCU and they like that. To have some people who they expect the same things from the MCU and they hate that. And then if you have something that breaks from that, they'll either like that or hate that. So actually, the audio audience seems to be playing out. Or I notice everybody who I notice plenty classical MCU fans hate this, right? Plenty classical haters of the MCU also hate it. But then you
Right.
have
Right.
people who was never into the MCU who likes this. And then it have a lot of people who always into the MCU likes this for the fact that it changes from the paradigm of the MCU. Because it doesn't feel like an MCU film at all. Like just the opening credits, they open with a crawl. Like that was shocking. Like it
Yeah,
have a
yeah.
text scroll in the beginning. What a text scroll
No,
did I
no,
do?
no lie. Yeah, that felt like some street out of the 80s where like some
Yeah,
Blade Runner
exactly.
kind of shit.
Yeah, exactly. It is just straight up. They just straight up give us a crawl and then start the story and then jump to the Marvel logo. Like, oh, that's real strange and different too. And in terms of the character beats, it mostly works. Like, if you're not into, here's the thing: if you're not into the sci-fi premise, that's kind of my problem as a sci-fi fan, right? I'm one of the sci-fi nerds who seen most of it or seen almost all of it. So when you do something in a popular culture sense, I'm not that impressed, and I kind of go home wanting a little more, even though it's good. And
Yeah,
I
I
had that
remember.
problem
I
with
remember you felt that way with Dune,
with
which I'm
Dune,
gonna bring
right?
up in this
Yeah,
review here.
yeah. I had that problem with Dune. I had that problem with Blade Runner 2049. Uh, I have the same problem with this. It's a premise we've seen 10,000 times. The whole ancient aliens stuff, right? Ancient aliens and aliens manipulating society. We see this 10,000 times in enough shows, right? If you're a Stargate fan or whatever it is, and it's good. It's fine. For what it's trying to do. But I was still underwhelmed with it for the most part. But I didn't hate it. It's different. It doesn't feel like a MCU film. They decided to just make it a more character beats. They make it more philosophical in terms of like their state in and their place in the universe and how they feel about it. And everybody bounces off each other reasonably well. I'll say the real problem with it is because it needs to trim a little bit. That's the problem. It had to trim a little bit of that. Surprisingly, the central conceit doesn't really work all that well in my opinion, which is the quote unquote deviance. They're not that interesting. They do a
Yeah,
nice link
agreed,
back.
agreed.
They do a nice link back to they do a nice link back to Infinity War, like what happens at the end of that. I'm like, oh, okay,
Yes.
that's a
Mhm.
thing, and then they play that back. Okay, I don't hate
Yeah,
any of that.
it's one of those in case you were wondering kind of moments. Yeah.
Yeah, um, but yeah, I could imagine some people really liking this because it avoids the trapping. So to them, that's like the two good things where it avoids the trapping of Disney stuff, but then they get the stuff they like and they like it. And then I can imagine some people who it's the worst of Disney and the worst of the changes of Disney and Chloe Zhao, so they completely hate it. Like I could see that. And then like it have typical Disney fans who don't like it because it's different. You don't feel like a Disney movie. It feels different. Somebody, I think Chloe Zhao said that she was somewhat inspired by Man of Steel. Like yeah, it had that a little Zack Snyder vibe to it in terms of like how it paces itself and that whole openness and open space. Not which is
It's funny that you bring up Man of Steel, right?
yeah,
Because I'll talk about DC with this, right? But
yeah,
yeah, go.
which is the good part, which is a good thing. Eh? It's a good part of the Man of Steel movies, like the good things in Snyder's films. Um, and yeah, that's how I feel about it. It was mostly fine. I wasn't super hyped. It had some funny moments and bits in it. You know, characters I thought would have the action was okay. I felt like it could do more with the action, but it was just generally uninspired. It was like it's just characters with powers, and it didn't feel like they were doing anything that interesting. The only person who was kind of interesting with his power set was my boy Paperboy, you know, Fastos. He was okay. Like I like what he there was how he was because what his character supposed to be. He's kind of like their
Yeah,
Tony Stark in a sense now.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
so that is about it. Yeah, it's I didn't love this, but I didn't hate this either, and it's definitely not the worst MCU film or anything like that in my opinion. But it I could see why it got the blowback it got, um, in terms of its approach, right? Yeah, I will you could say a point and then I'll give my rating after.
All right, so here's the thing, right? I do agree with you where you're coming from, right? But I think my issue, well, issues, right, is that given where the MCU is right now, what they've been able to do over the course of 25 films, right? Not saying that all of them were perfect, not saying all of them were memorable, but what they were just able to do was just take primarily characters that people like us, people who grew up on comic book basically, and comic books, video games, cartoons, all that kind of stuff, would be marginally familiar with, right? But then everybody else would just be like, well, why should we care? Why should we care about Iron Man and Thor and all that kind of stuff? And all to these movies, oh yeah, Iron Man is my favorite character and Thor and all that kind of stuff, right? So while I was watching this, one show that I couldn't help but go back to is a little film called Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Which,
Right,
if you remember,
right,
not that many people, like myself included, knew who these characters were, right?
right. Yeah,
And it wasn't so much about what their role was going to be in the grand scheme of the MCU, but just who are these characters and why we should care, right?
Right,
And
right,
out of that, when the movie came out, it's like, yeah, we care. We love these characters. They're so different and unique and strange and weird, but they're likable and charismatic and they have heart to them, right? And I wanted to feel that with Eternals, but unfortunately, I didn't get that, right? I just
right,
felt like it was just, I mean, not, I would say unintentional, but just a lot of navel gazing. It's just a lot of,
right.
all right, well, we're all Eternals, and we're not
Here's
supposed
the
to intervene in
right.
human development of the human
Here,
world and all that kind of stuff.
here's the
But now
problem.
we feel all bad about it. Oh no,
No, no. Here's
you
my
know.
problem with it. Right,
Well, sorry. Well, I'm making it so way worse, but it,
right.
it does come off a bit like that, right?
The
Just
problem, yeah, for me, the problem is that given what we've seen so far in Phase 4, especially because of the end of Loki, I was like, wait, how is this like a big deal? Like, we kind of
agreed. Yeah, yeah. It
see
really
the end
doesn't.
of the like if Loki didn't have
It
that
doesn't feel like it
ending.
adds to. Sorry, it doesn't feel like it adds to anything big or major.
I
That's
think
something else
it's
I was gonna bring
supposed
up. Like
to.
especially with what we've gotten so far with Phase 4. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. But but it's supposed to. It's supposed to. If the end of Loki was not what it was, I would have been like, all right, well, fine. But the thing is, the end of Loki just blow everything out of the water in terms of what you should be doing in terms of the scale and stakes of the story. So I don't understand how this gonna feed back into that now. To be honest, now. Like this still relatively small in scale, but it's telling it big. But I know it's not that big. So if Loki didn't happen, I'd have been a little more invested in this, to be honest, right? And given, look, I'm mostly invested in the MCU for what the world building. I like this bullshit, right? I like the goofy comic book bullshit. I like the world building
Me
and the
me me,
history.
me
And
too. Me
I
too.
like this
Me too.
bullshit. But I when but Loki kind of break everything straight up. You gotta come real big now, and that's the typical problem with these sci-fi. They scale up in weird ways, right? Um, and this now, like because you introduce a bunch of new characters and you don't have the scale to wrap it with, I wasn't. It didn't tie into me. I don't hate it, but I'm not that interested because especially when they
Yeah, yeah.
reveal what the real quote unquote truth is, that's still not that great or interesting, to be
Agreed.
honest.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I do agree with you, man. Because
yeah,
yeah, because even while I was watching this as well too, you know what I mean. You hear Eternals, and
yeah,
you're seeing these really like godlike characters with powers and all that kind of stuff, and then of course, and then because you're setting them up in different eras of human history, right? So it gives this grandeur to everything now. And yet, when the show plays out, it's just like, well, no, it gives the impression that there's some kind of grandeur to it, but not really. And I really felt it way more with the big conceit with the celestial that's supposed to be reawakened, right? Like you,
right,
and I mean, yes, it's grand in scale, right? But at no point in time did I feel like, oh wow, like if this thing arises, then yeah, the world is going to be destroyed. Like I don't know if
yeah.
you notice it too, Ricardo, but it just felt so small scale, man.
That's the problem.
That sequence, it just felt like it's
That's the
in
problem.
this part of
Like
the world, but it doesn't affect everyone
it
else.
had
In
right.
that
It has
scene,
that same.
like at that scene,
Yeah,
showed news reports and seeing news helicopters flying and crashing and whatnot. But still, it was just these characters on this sort of beach-like area
yeah.
fighting this big,
You're right.
giant, this behemoth, and everybody else is kind of oblivious to it.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
how I felt. Yeah.
Yeah. But it had the same problem I had with Captain Marvel, where it it's supposed to be big, and then they decide to tell a more smaller personal story. But the problem is that the smaller, more personal story not that engaging. Like it's fine.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's fine. It's good stuff, but it's not like, wait, boy, that was like a real big dig deep in the soul of this character. Not really. It was
Yeah.
just an origin story. Like it's just
Right.
a solid narrative story, and they tell certain things, and then they change up like how the comics have these characters. Like, oh, it's not
Okay.
really
Well.
Icarus. It's not really Icarus, but this character is actually be the one who's the quote unquote betrayer character, and so on and so forth. I don't know enough about the comics, but like I know
Okay,
just
well, I
enough
didn't
to
even know there was a betrayal character in the Eternals to begin with. I thought that
yeah,
was just
exactly. Yeah,
written
there's
in for
always
the
have we
film.
have one. Yeah, there's always have one character who's and I thought it would have been him knowing what he does, knowing the character roles he play. Right, is my boy from oh god, Killing of a Sacred Deer, right? Um, I forget the actor name, but it's him.
Oh,
He's always
not
play.
Richard Madden.
I forget the actor name. Killing of a Sacred Deer. Who was he?
No,
Was he?
Barry Keoghan.
Right. So that character he plays, that character is the character that's always be the bad guy character. And I thought they was
Oh,
gonna go with
Druig,
that.
Druig. That's his
Drake,
name,
right?
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was just he was gonna be the villain and the twist and the reveal. But no, they do something else with it, right? They make it. I was like, all right, and it have that kind of feel like it's similar to Watchmen, kind of vibe
Yes,
of
yes.
right that same
But
thing, right?
but
Of
but
oh
it's
well, yeah, I was good, but really we have to do this thing because I'm making a utilitarian gambit. Blah blah
yeah.
blah blah blah.
Now you see as you bring up Watchmen, perfect example. I was
Right,
thinking about that too. Because yes, Watchmen and all too. Well, I mean, yes, it came out before Man of Steel. It came out before the DCU was a thing, right? But that was so radically different. Well, radically in quotes, right? Compared to like what we've gotten with like the Dark Knight trilogy or just superhero shows as
right,
a whole, right?
right,
Because it just kind of approach things from this deeper existential level, right? But it still gave you the goods. It still gave you thrilling action scenes. It still got you invested in the story. You still feel like, okay, if shit hits the fan, then what's gonna happen next, right? And here, I mean, yeah, you get some action and you look good, and you get like a nice little opening scene in I believe it was by where it was by I think it's in BC 5000 BC wherever it is. Like you got
right.
a nice little moment with the deviants, and that was cool. And you get a little moment in the Amazon forest that was cool, and bits of the third act was cool as well too, right? But
Right, right.
I don't know, like just compared to what we've seen before with other MCU films, they just didn't wow me. I just kind of watch them as like, oh, okay, well, all right, Gilgamesh have the power to punch things, okay, all right, and Cersei have the power to kind of change matter into whatever she wills it. Okay, that's nice. And Icarus literally is, Clark Kent, right? Slash Man of Steel, right?
Yeah,
And just to touch on that briefly, way, I don't know if you picked up as picked up on it as well too, Ricardo, way, but while this is a very very well looking film, I won't lie, though, the cinematography
yeah. Look good.
excellent in my opinion, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
notice it has some noticeably flawed VFX in it, right? Like stuff that just look like something out of like a TV show. And I saw it more with Icarus, like especially when he flies, like the way how he flies has a very blatant Superman TV
yeah,
show. Like I talk about Superman Lois
yeah,
or whatever
yeah.
Superman
Whatever.
TV incarnation.
There's
It have
there's cut
like
there's cut corners where there's cut corners. Like it's stuff like
yeah,
that
but I
don't
just
bother me too
watching that
much.
like,
But
oh
yes,
gosh, in
this.
a MCU movie, bro. Like
Yeah,
this is what we
whatever.
doing. I would
Yeah,
say this one moment, right? Kind of little teeny tiny spoiler, right? With him flying off into space, and he do the typical, okay, he's looking across at Earth and then looking
yeah,
across the sun
yeah,
as well as stuff, and even that and all look kind of
yeah,
hokey though, like just
yeah,
like.
yeah. A little bit, yeah.
Bro,
Whatever.
I
Yeah,
was watching the credits. I see Industrial Light and Magic. ILM could do no wrong in my eyes. But oh gosh, man, like
yeah.
I
Well,
know he's a Superman character, but don't make it like okay, he has to move exactly like Superman. Like, jeez, man, like add a little more stuff to it. It's an MCU movie, like, and it's the point I'll stop here. They even have a character literally call Icarus Superman. Like, hey, you're Superman. I was like,
right, exactly.
ugh,
Like whatever.
like
Yeah,
really we doing this whatever, right? But there is good, right? I would say that the performances are good. Kingo in particular, who's played by
all right.
Kumali
Yeah, that is great.
Nanjiani,
Yeah,
he was
like he
really
he is
likable.
he is my favorite. He
Yeah,
and
he's my favorite character
he
in
and
this.
Paperboy is my two favorite.
Yeah, Paperboy. I'll get to him in a bit, right? I love his post, Eternals breakup because basically what happens, and they actually reveal why. The Eternals break up. They move on and they
Yeah,
live in in our world, right, in human world, right. And where he ends up, though, I thought was really fascinating, and it really like clear up. Okay, well he's old, right? He's like centuries older, but they justify why he could be in the role that he is in the film. And I thought that was really hilarious. He has a sort of an Alfred-esque character that rules with him as well too. I thought he's going to be on the news, but they kind of make him work in a way. Although
right,
really and truly he didn't need to be in the show, in my opinion. Right? That's just me, right?
right.
Cersei was played by Gemma Chan. I mean, she's fine. I mean, fine, yeah. Um, and yes, okay, so one of the big highlights that everybody was talking about, well, I should say Chloe and everybody was kind of hyping up. Oh, we're gonna get the first real sex scene in an MCU show,
Yeah, well,
and you see it, and it's like, well,
yeah, not really.
all right, that was that
Yeah,
was that was cool, but nothing mind blowing. And well, slight spoilers with Icarus, and
whatever.
they I would say okay, like I do like and appreciate the having them be a couple and well, not surprised they broke up because of reasons, right? So I like that they kind of had that there, but then they had to kind of squeeze in my opinion, or sorry, shoehorn in my opinion, Kit Harington, aka
Right.
Jon Snow. Like I felt his character was shoehorned in for the sake of it. Like, oh, I'm
Is that
the human
there's
guy who
there's a
likes
typical
Cersei, but I can't get with you because you have a deeper history that you're not going to tell me because
yeah,
you're
that's the
also mysterious
typical
and shit. Ooh. I
no,
was like,
that's
oh,
yeah,
God.
the typical um
It remember, it remember of oh gosh, Natalie Portman's character in Thor. You'd be like,
right.
oh, I can be with you,
No,
but I can't be with you because
here's the
there's
problem.
something else about you,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. There.
yeah, the problem is this is typical like Marvel problem where they have to add in a thing because comic reference slash sequel beat. But it don't fit in the story at all. But like you'll excuse it because it come in. And because he character is supposed to be Black Knight, which is a
Yeah, yeah,
human.
yeah. And
Right.
I hated how they. I
Yeah.
didn't even like. Well, okay. So you probably knew this, Ricardo, while I was watching it, but I had to Wikipedia that shit when I went home. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's what
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Right, right,
But
right, right.
how they literally
They do
and
that
like before they get to the post credit scene,
post credit
they
scene was
have him like
obnoxious,
it's
sure.
some kind of big important figure. I'm like why
Yeah.
would you end the show like that? And then
Yeah,
they get
rubbish.
to well, okay, so there's two post credit scenes, so not gonna spoil, but the second one that involves Kit's
Yeah.
character, I was just like, well, okay. And
Yeah.
then like I actually read up, oh, there's another character who speaks him. That's all you see. And it's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's it. All right,
Yeah,
well,
nah,
okay.
rubbish.
But
Hate it.
yeah,
Really
it
that
didn't
shit.
make any sense. But the one
Yeah.
before that though, that one for me was just like this was just pointless. This made no sense. This was just a cameo for the sake of having a cameo. It didn't
Right.
excite me. It didn't wow me. It didn't
Nope.
thrill me. It didn't have me like, oh my god, I
But
need to
it's a
see that.
character.
Just
That's a character I
well,
hate in
I
the
don't know
comic.
who you are neither, right? But
Yeah.
I had to look it up. It's like, okay, sorry, because he says who he is, right? But
Right.
it's just so surface level. It's just like, well, all right,
Yeah.
but still, what you had to do with Eternals, I don't understand. You just kind of just here because of that, right?
Yeah.
But whatever. Well, yeah, what are your thoughts
No,
on
yeah,
that
that
sequence?
yeah, I personally really didn't care for that. It was like, yeah, are you serious with this? Like, we doing this, and it really don't work. He's a character I don't even like from the comics anyway. So it's like, oh,
Okay, okay.
they're bringing him in. Like, what? Why?
Yeah,
Like that's not
there's no
interesting. And then
need for
who
him
they
to
get?
just.
Yeah, which pop star they get for him? And it's like,
It's Harry Styles. Harry
so
Styles.
clearly he's not gonna be in a movie. Like they're really gonna bring Harry Styles in a goddamn MCU movie to be an actor. Like
You
it's
know,
a clearly a
like
throwaway,
you
right?
don't feel it just because he was in Dunkirk for a while. It's like, oh my god, like wow, Harry Styles, like we
No,
need
it's
to
rubbish.
sign him up in big budget movies like as soon as. And okay,
Yeah,
well he's in this. All right, well okay, right. As far as the other Eternals, I do agree with you. I really dug the character Fastos, played
yeah,
by Byron Tyree Henry.
yeah,
There's a great flashback scene I'll see that really sums up how he feels about the world. I thought
yeah.
that was excellent. How like I felt like a few of the previous scenes were just kind of just there like to kind of fill up the runtime, but that shot in particular though with Byron, sorry with Fastos worked for me, right?
Yeah.
And another thing that they were hyping up, oh well, he's the first gay MCU character. All right,
Not,
that's cool.
we barely
And
see that.
all right,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, you
but
want to go.
and it's a moment, right? And
It's
they,
a
they
blink
show it's
for
like,
them.
oh well, the first same-sex moment with the MCU character. You
It's
see
like
it, it's like,
it's
all
like the
right,
first time they say that.
like you just see like, all right, well,
Okay, that is
that
it.
was
Yeah.
cool, but not
Yeah.
spectacular. Again. Um, I thought that the character Makari was cool as well. She's played by Lauren Ridloff. She's from The Walking Dead, but I actually forgot her role in The
Right.
Walking Dead
Right.
because I've watched The
Right.
Walking Dead a long while. I thought it was interesting that she's apparently the first deaf superhero in the MCU. Like
Yeah.
this again the first, right? Well,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Triple.
The character of Drig took a while to get to middle.
Right.
But I do like his like how he was just kind of like against the other characters and what they wanted, all that kind of stuff. I love that he just wanted to be the loner character. That was really interesting, right? Gilgamesh, I felt we could have got more out of him, you know what I mean? But I do like how I do like in on paper the relationship between him and Angeloni's character of Tina.
Right, right.
And I felt we could have gotten a little bit more out of her character. Like, there's just building her up to be this just badass warrior, but then they just gave her this defect as all I see that just kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, but what? Why? How? They just kind of just see, oh, this happens, and this is why she's flawed, and it just was like, all right, well, kind of explore that a little bit more, but they just didn't, right? Ajak, we played by Sama Hayek. I thought that she
Yeah,
was, I love that she was the mother character involved, and how she just kind of held everybody together. I understand, her decision in terms of, allowing the turtles to split up, right? There's one scene involving her and Icarus, which I know what they was going for with it, Dread, but execution wise, it just felt sloppy. It just felt like, okay, we just have to have this character be mad at that character and just end it off like this. And
right.
this is the mystery behind what happens to Ejak. And I was just like, wait, that's it? Like
Yeah,
that's your big twist? Okay, all right, then
yeah,
it just didn't work for me at all, right?
yeah.
My least favorite character, though, unfortunately, I have to give it to Sprite, boy, like
Right.
played by Leah McHugh, right? Not familiar with her. She's actually a child actress, right? But apparently she's an turtle who was, for some reason, cursed to be in this child body,
Right.
and all right, like I get, okay, like I understand. All right, she wants to be an adult, and she wants to experience life like that. It was kind of awkward. There's like the moment at the bar where she assumes the role of a older woman, and then she just kind of freaks out a little bit, and then she turns back to that child, just like, well, all right, that was kind of pointless, but whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a little character twist that she does where she aligns herself with someone. I just like, all right, but because they hinted it before, right? They
Right.
throw a character, a famous character from a story. It's like, all right, well, a famous character from a story, okay, but then she actually like do it, and it just felt so forced. Like, okay, she had to do this because she feels this way about this character, but you never saw that connection between the two of them. I at least I didn't see that, right? Um, but yeah, for me though, but just to touch quickly on direction, Chloe Zhao, yeah, she direct the hell out of this too.
Yeah.
There was moments in this where it reminded me, like, I don't know, like, I don't know if you felt the same way. It felt like this was like a Terrence Malick film, what I mean,
Right.
where like the nature shots, it looks so exquisite and gorgeous, and it's all about these external scenes, right? Not so much about exterior shots and sunsets and just how gorgeous nature and all that good shit looks, right? So yeah, I mean, she directed. I mean, she did a great job of this as well too. And in terms of just her sensibilities, I like that she was able to incorporate that into it, right? What I mean, just showing how these characters connect with other people, right? This is like I think I realized like a common thread with her films, how the main character would relate to some other random character, what I mean, how they learn from them, and what I mean, it's all that good humanistic stuff, right? So it's
Right.
fine, right? But I felt at times it just kind of clashed with just the mere fact that it's an MCU film, and I don't see this as a fanboy who just want to see action and just see a bunch of superhero characters punch each other out. But I mean, in terms of what we've gotten before, what we come to expect, right? And this is where we get to like the major issue I have with this film, boy. The pacing, it is
Yeah.
sluggish, it
Yeah.
is
Yeah. That's
slow.
the main problem
That
is that.
second
Yeah.
act drags on forever. It's just
Yep.
numerous moments of, oh, what should we do? Should we allow this celestial to wake up, or should we try to stop it? Oh no, what do we do? I
Yeah.
don't know what to do. I wish Ajax was here. Right?
Right.
It's,
Yeah.
it's all of that, and this character just switching sides and but good thing that you bring up the Ang Lee Hulk, right? Because
Yeah.
yeah, I mean Ang Lee put his own kind of creative spin on it as well too, right? It
Right.
doesn't feel like a typical superhero film. Not seen
Yeah.
MCU
But the
film,
idea,
right?
the idea that Ang Lee was going for is the ponderous Hulk. Like Hulk is a
Yes,
really
yes,
tragic character, right?
yeah,
Just
of
a very
course,
tragic
yeah.
character. So like Ang Lee, listen, do talk, Ang Lee Hulk don't work, right? A lot of it doesn't work.
No,
But I
no, no, no.
thought what he was going for was interesting. Like it was
Yeah,
okay. I don't mind any of this, and even at the time, I was appreciative. I didn't hate it. I don't remember hating it at the time, but I was like, yeah, it really don't work, and I
I,
understand why.
I I just remember seeing it once on cable. Like, I didn't even bother to see it instead of I watch it on Stars. I
Right,
just like never watch it again after.
right. But I understand why it is, and as I say, there's a kind of this. dissonance now with that type of filmmaking or this type of filmmaker and superheroes, right? I don't know. It
Yeah.
could be somebody like Snyder tried to synthesize it, right? And for varying degrees, and it depends on how you feel about Man of Steel or whatever. But yeah, I totally understand why people have issues with this. They have that same problem. Like it's very
Agreed.
reminiscent of,
Yeah.
doing quote unquote, and everybody getting into this dumb debate about real film and that nonsense now. But yeah, okay, rating times.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
I,
yeah. You give a rating. I'll do my final thoughts and rating, right? So yeah,
I'll
rating.
give it. I'll say okay. I'll give it a 7, right, out of 10, right?
Okay. Yo,
Yeah,
that's
not
quite reasonable. Okay.
it's. I don't hate it. I understand the problems with it. I'll say the main issue is just the pacing, and then it's a little dissonant in the sense of the framing of how these characters should be portrayed or whatever it is. But like she was like, this kind of the only way you could do this kind of bullshit, like this larger than life, mythology stuff. You had to do it like this. Like I don't expect her to do Captain America or anything like that. And in some ways, she is good for this. She's the right pick for something like this. But at the same time, I could see why people would not be into it as it is. I see why a lot of critics don't like it. I understand where they're coming from, and I'll admit a lot of it. But to be clear, a lot of it is we had to tear down the MCU, and there's the opportunity to like again a lot of that that vibe now. Oh, this is the weak point of the MCU, pylon now. A little bit again a pylon feeling from some of it. So it's like yeah, there's nowhere near as bad as people making out to be, but I understand where they're coming from. To be honest, that's still my last point about how I feel. It's like yeah, it's fine. It's mostly fine. 7 out of 10, closer to 8 to be honest. Mostly because like yeah, it just had good visuals on display and ultimately solid filmmaking. But I see why people I see the problems with it, to be honest, right? Mostly to do with pace and like they gotta trim down some stuff and trim some fat here or there, but yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's my last feeling about it.
Right, I agree with you too. I myself understand why it's divisive, right? People will go in this expecting some slam bang action film, and they're not gonna get that, or they're just not gonna get their what they expect from the MC, right? And I'll admit I felt the same way too, but I do respect what Chloe and her team put together with this, right? Even right down to like the end title sequence as well too. I thought that was like shockingly like well directed. Like I was like watching this like
Oh yeah,
wow, like Gabi, it just felt so different compared to like what we saw before, with the other films that just so well shot and everything like that, right? So I mean I do applaud, being different, right? But as I said on
right,
Facebook, being different doesn't always equate to better, right? So at
right.
the end of the day, yes, you want to be different, you want to do different things, but know your audience, know because remember,
I mean,
25 films in, know your audience, right? Like if
yeah,
this, like I would say, like if this was not part of the MCU at all, out of excuses, this would have just been
right.
okay. Well, this is just part of
But
Marvel
see,
Comics, and this is just a version, we like that. But like you have to take into consideration, even if you don't want to, that this is following right after 25 MCU films now, right?
right.
So well, I
No,
do
here's the thing.
appreciate the effort. One second, like, while I do appreciate the effort of being different and trying new things out, at the same time, you kind of still have to, you know, be a
I
MCU film, be a superhero film. And I felt like
right.
there were moments where Chloe was doing that, and it just felt kind of awkward, kind of haphazard, right? Like case in point, that stuff with Kit Harington, whoever's name character, and just certain things. It just kind of felt like okay, like all right, I want to tell the story about these larger life beings who kind of realize that they kind of small universe, all that existential stuff that I love. But we kind of had to do the MCU stuff, so okay, I'll trade a little fight scene here and here's some CG
Yeah.
monsters. But oh, by the way, Deviants didn't care about them at
So yeah,
all.
yeah.
Apparently, one of them became, aware, self-aware. I don't know. One, I don't remember one last before you get to your thoughts. Well, last point, Ricardo. Um, no real villain though. We like
But
not
that's the
saying,
whole
not
point. They're not
saying,
meant to
not
have
saying.
one.
Okay, not see that all that it had to have one, right?
Yeah,
But
it's because everything's
something
supposed to be all
memorable, man. Not
ponderous and
just
serious
yeah,
business.
that just an eternal. Not gonna say who. Well, I guess we probably said it already. Who
Right.
decides that okay, well, the Celestial needs to be awakened, and some self-aware deviant and his goons, and
Yeah.
that's all I'm supposed to take away from this. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
come on. You know what I mean? Like at
No,
the
but
end of the day,
that,
it still have to be a superhero film, and I just felt like it was just trying hard to be anything but that. You know what I mean? So
right.
that's just my thoughts. But
The thing is,
before I get to read it, your thoughts?
yeah, no, the thing is that the discourse is very like convoluted and muddled on this whole thing because I really don't agree with that whole know your audience thing. I think no, you should the creator should just do their own thing and make it work. The problem is that being in the MCU really undermines that, especially in the fact that we can already watch Loki. Like if Loki didn't exist, that would have been perfectly fine. Eh? Like, oh, okay, this was going on here. All right, great. But Loki came and went, and it's like, all right, well, I don't know where you want or going for, to be honest.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, if I could just say one thing, just as you keep bringing up Loki, right? I, just agree to disagree, but I felt, and I just see this because of what we gotten so far with Phase 4. This should have been a limited series. We could have gotten
right. I
more
this would have worked a little
moments,
better if it was
like
yes.
flesh out the story even
If it was not
more.
right, it should
So
not be
because that it doesn't. It's not like a rushed story, but it just
exactly.
kind of
Yeah, I
gives
agree with
you
that.
cliff notes. And it's not enough for you to just latch in and be
Right.
emotionally invested with
Yeah.
it. That's the problem. That's ultimately how I felt. Like I liked it for what it was, but I didn't
But you
feel
see,
emotionally
again,
connected with
yeah,
it.
again, the discordant problem now. Like Marvel, remember Marvel big bag is putting stuff in theaters, right? Remember they had a whole hub, kerfuffle over Black Widow being in theaters or not, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the problem. Like again, studio system clashing with creative sensibilities. The typical art versus commerce battle, right? That's how it felt. There's a lot of dissonance and discord in that sense. But yeah. Yeah, 7 out of 10. That's how I feel about it. I don't know. This might change over the years, over the month if I will give it a second watch. But yeah, mostly because it's an MCU film that doesn't really fit in the MCU, and it really
That's the
starting to
thing.
show.
Yeah.
It's just starting to show its discordance. And again, I won't mind any of that if they didn't make Loki, don't blow up the universe,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
so.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, for me, I'm gonna give this a very, very light 3 out of 5. It's eyed for what it is, right? Initially, I was gonna go 2.5 out of 5, see it if you want to, but I really think that there is a lot of good in this, right? And it is, if you want to see it on big screen, I think it is worth seeing it on big screen, right?
Yeah, you can have a seat. You
Unfortunately,
can have a seat on big screen.
yeah, I saw the Caribbean Cinemas 8, so I
Yep.
didn't get the proper sound that I wanted. I get the visual, but I didn't get the proper sound. And it's
Right.
funny that, I see this, right? Because while the credits were rolling, right? Swear to God, I was hearing Dune on the other screen because the
Wow.
the uh the door was open. So that song that I love, that was playing there. I just thought that was so funny. And even like we didn't touch on music. Like the music for what's worth is fine, right? It's done by
Yeah, it's good actually.
Ramin
Yeah.
Djawadi, Game
Yeah.
of Thrones, that guy though. It's fine for what it is though. It didn't like hit me as much as I wanted it to, but I still really, really dug it, right? But yeah, I felt like it just felt a little tonally distant from the MCU, which is unfortunate though. But I felt like it could have done its existential discussions and stuff like that, and still be an MCU show. Like it's possible. Like and I see this also too, just in closing, because with the MCU, we've seen over the years, right, that you can take these characters and just make them so likable and larger life at the same time now. And yeah, I mean, you come out of it like emotionally moved, like like it was the point that like I put like many people were calling Black Panther one of the best movies of the past decade, right? And that was a superhero film, right? Think about
Right.
that, right? Think about how big a deal that was, right?
Yeah, I mean,
And
look,
then
it got Oscar nomination, Drew, like for
yes,
Best
yes, it
Picture, Drew. I
did.
mean,
Yeah, for best
again, you
picture.
could you could you could dismiss all of that as oh well, is people pushing the studio and a lot of, but like that's always how the Oscar game was always being played. So it's like what's the difference?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and it told a great story. Maybe not
yeah,
the most magnificent story ever told or most original, but it was a great story, right? And it resonated with so much people. And I felt we could have gotten that here, like just give us, these larger life characters now that we don't know about now, but still presented such a way where it's like, wow, I can attach myself to this person or that person, right? And not saying that, oh, you won't connect it at all. I mean, if you love the film, if you connect with any one of these characters, fine, right? But I just kind of came out of it like, all right, I saw these characters, they did a thing, but I just wasn't invested in them or the conceit or what was
Right.
going on. I just kind of watch it and I just shove it popcorn in my face. I was like, all right, well, that's it. Okay, well, all right. Could have got more, but whatever. But yeah, this is not the worst MC movie I would say. And I do see myself watching this over again just for like the visuals and just maybe to dive a little bit deep into like the deeper meanings and whatnot. Though even though there isn't really that much to really think about or anything that spectacular in my opinion. But I don't know what's gonna be the future of the Eternals. Like like what I mean, like in general, like are we gonna
Right.
get the well? They see the Eternals were returned, right? So
Right.
okay, we're gonna get the Eternals too. But point is like. How is it gonna be? Like, is it gonna be
I
Chloe
this
Zhao
is
directing this again, or
I have
somebody else
no
who's
clue.
gonna inject some new flavor into it? And
I don't again.
um,
The thing is, the MCU they didn't really throw their hand yet in terms of where things shaping up and where things going now, right? To me, Loki just did such a big blow up of the franchise in terms of the world building. I was like, all right, well, they had to do something to tie all of this back together. So I don't know what they're gonna do. So that's why I just waiting for them to play their hand. And well, the movie it have one movie for them to really like set up what really going on, and that's Doctor Strange, right? We
yeah,
had to
yeah,
wait
Doctor
for Doctor
Strange
Strange
and
to
the
explain.
Multiverse of Madness, yeah.
Right. So to make sense of what's going on there. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, with Chloe's out, just say things off for real this time, right? So, yeah, I mean, this is a huge step up, I would say, for Chloe Zhao. You know what I mean? Just being able to make her first, big budget blockbuster, right? And well, heaven knows where it's gonna take her in the future. Like I honestly do see her taking the Terrence Malick route. Like in a way like this reminds me of a bit of the Thin Red Line, right? Which I actually own on Blu-ray actually, right? Off a Criterion. This war film, right? But it still has Terrence's flair for nature and the world around us and all that kind of stuff, right? So I mean, who knows where her career will go after this, right? But I mean, despite the criticism and stuff like that, I think like she did a great job for what it, right? And yeah, I mean, I think that she just probably had a blast doing this too. And
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, sky's the limit for her, man. I want to see her do
Yeah.
do big things. But
Yeah.
if we do get into the sequel and if she's helming it though, I really do hope that she kind of sits down and just kind of figures out the script. So if she puts her name twice in the screenplay by, it'll be worth it. You know what I mean? But yeah, she did her thing, man. She left an indelible mark on the MCU for better or for worse, man. I can't be
Right.
mad at that. Yeah.